Welcome to this painting tutorial for Dogmeat from Fallout Wasteland Warfare. I'm Jason, creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. This is part 2 of my Dogmeat series here on the Tabletop Battlefield. And in episode 1, I built his armor that you can see him wearing here out of various types of polystyrene. You can find a link to that video in the show notes. Now, so far up to this point, all I've done is prime him in the War Painters Army Painter series Dragon Red, and I used my custom 3D printed priming tool for that procedure. And the reason I chose this color is, well, just it's the only particular type of primer I had sitting around, unfortunately. So that's what I ended up using. But we're going to start the process off by applying several layers of brown. Now if you look at the screenshot I took of Dogmeat, you'll notice at the top of his body is dark brown to black, where more towards his legs is a lighter brown. So I'm going to work first with some Rhinox hide, which is a base color from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. And we're going to apply maybe 2 thin down layers of that paint all across the miniature. And I'll be using the Artificer Layer extra small brush for this entire miniature. That is kind of the high-end Games Workshop brush. So upon closer inspection, it looks like I need maybe a third layer in a few parts of the miniature. So I'm going to apply that right now, and I'm still using the Rhinox hide. Our layers of Rhinox hide are complete. I'm going to work on some of the lighter colors towards the bottom half of his body. So I'm going to first use some Oak Brown from the Army Painters War Paint series. I'm going to thin this paint down a bit, and I will apply it kind of to the bottom half, maybe bottom 3/4 of Dogmeat's body. Well, that layer is drying. I'm going to take some Leather Brown, which is a little bit of a lighter brown color than Oak Brown from the Army Painter War Paint series. Mix that into the Oak Brown to get a little bit of a lighter shade. Then I'm going to apply that to the bottom of Dogmeat's body. But I'm going to apply it to even a less area, so maybe half the body versus 2/3 or 3/4 of it. So next I'm going to be taking some Desert Yellow from the Army Painters War Paint series, mixing that into this mixture of Oak Brown and Leather Brown I have to give almost a yellowish tint to the brown. And I'm going to kind of apply that in a few random splotches around Dogmeat. If you look at the picture from the game, he does have some yellow highlights here and there throughout his fur. So I've got 2 washes I'm going to apply to this miniature. The first is going to come from the Army Painters War Paint series, and this is a flesh wash. I haven't actually used this color before, but it appears to be a kind of a dark brown wash. For this wash, I'm going to be applying it all over the dog. And as with any wash technique, the idea here is for the wash to get into the crevices in terms of the detail, and therefore increase contrast between the lower areas of the miniature and the higher areas, and then allow your eye, therefore, to pick out the detail a little bit better. The next wash up is going to be the non-oil from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. Now this is going to be the non-gloss version because we don't really want Dogmeat's coat to be shining. So make sure you're using the normal version and not the gloss version. I'm going to go ahead and apply it while this wash is still drying, but this wash you only want to apply to maybe the top half of the dog. Now give both those layers of wash plenty of time to dry. Even though the wash on his body is not dry yet, I used a paper towel to dry the wash that was on the armor panels, which we built in the first episode in this series. Let's start painting those up. I'm going to begin with a layer paint called Dawnstone Gray from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. I'm only painting the armor panels themselves. I'm not painting the little rope pieces that connect the armor panels together, at least not intentionally. If you get a little bit of paint on them, that's perfectly fine. So the next step with the armor is to add a little bit of Lead Belcher. This is a silver color from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. I'm going to apply some of that, but not all over all the armor panels, maybe the edges, just to give it a little bit of metallic sheen to the look of the armor. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I got one more highlight color to apply to the armor. So to get some edge highlighting with the armor plates, I'm going to be using Stormhose Silver from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints, and that's a really bright silver color. I'm going to be applying this just around, like I said, the edges of the armor plates. Next we'll take some Leather Brown and do a bit of double duty with it. First we're going to be applying it to the actual rope pieces in between the armor panels. Then we're going to be applying some of it just around the armor itself to create a base color for some rust. Leather brown is the fairly light brown color from earlier in the painting process. I guess I lied. We have one more step with the leather brown, and that's to paint the strap that's holding on the body armor. So I want a little bit more variation to the rope pieces between the armor plates. So I'm going to take some oak brown, this is a little bit darker color, and just add small bits of that to the pieces of rope as well as the strap holding the body armor on. So I need to sell the rust a little bit better by giving it an orange tint. So what I'm going to be doing is taking some Troll Slayer orange, this is a Citadel layer paint, I'm mixing that into the leather brown to get a little bit brighter, slightly orangish tint, and then I'm going to highlight the various rust sections with that color. To finish this part of the dog off, I'm going to take some Flesh Wash from Army Painter's War Paint series that I was using, and I'm going to go over both the ropes and the rust. There is one more step to completing the armor, but we got to wait for this wash to dry, so I'll come back to that in a little bit. In the meantime, I'm actually going to work on the goggles. This particular miniature from the Heroes of Sanctuary Hills has goggles on his face, which is freaking awesome. So for that, I'm going to take some leather brown and paint up the entirety of the goggles. This is straps and all. There appears to be connector points on either side of the goggles. I'm going to paint those with a little bit of lead belcher to make it look like there's some sort of metal clips. Now I'm going to work on the lenses. Because it's awesome, I'm going to paint the lenses pitch black. So we're using Abaddon black in this case. Cool. It looks like the previous layer of washes in the armor have mostly dried or totally dried. I'm going to go over all of the armor with some non-oil wash, and this is the gloss version of that particular shade. The last step here is to paint up his bandana. I'm going to give it a bit of a military camouflage look, so I am going to start with some Caliban Green from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints. This particular paint is just a dark green color. We're going to add a little bit of highlighting using some Warpstone Glow. This is a layer paint from Games Workshop Citadel line of paints, and it's kind of a little bit of a lighter green color in the series of Caliban Green. Helps sell the fact that it's like a military camouflage, I'm going to take some oak brown and kind of just draw some squiggly line patterns on the bandana. Now once that is dried, we'll be able to apply a wash and call the entire miniature complete. I think while I'm waiting for that, I will work a little bit on his base. So I don't know exactly what's going on with his base right here. It looks like it's mostly mud. There might be a few pieces of concrete here and over here. I really can't quite tell. So I'm going to coat the base in Rhinox hide and go from there. And I am trying to avoid the areas that I think are concrete, because I'll paint those a little bit of a different color. Let's move right in to painting more colors while it's still a little bit wet. Let's add some oak brown to the mix, as well as some leather brown, just to get a variety of dirt and muddy colors going on here. So what I'm thinking I'm going to be doing for the concrete is taking some Dawnstone Gray and mixing in a little bit of Desert Yellow to kind of give just a little bit of an off-white gray color, if that makes any sense at all. We'll be returning to the base in just a moment. For the time being, I want to finish up the bandana. And for that, I'm going to be using some Citadel shade. This is Beal Tan Green. This is kind of like a dark green wash. I'm going to coat the entire bandana in this color. Okay, the bandana is done. I'm quite happy with how the miniature itself looks, but now we got to finish the base. However, the brown paint from just a few minutes ago was not dry yet, so let that dry before we move on to the next step. Alright, it's time to add a few last effects to the base. So for all the mud areas, in fact, let's just cover the entire base in it. We're going to use the Flesh Wash we've been using up to this point, which is the dark brown wash from Army Painter's War Paint series. So while that is drying, I'll actually hold Dogmeat by the miniature itself, take some Abaddon black, and coat the sides of the base so that I've got a nice even coat of paint around the sides of the miniature's base. Alright, we're going to let the wash dry, and then we'll apply a little bit of turf just to add some more variety to the base. Time for the last step here in painting Dogmeat. I'm just going to apply a few dabs of Elmer's glue around the base, avoiding the cement areas. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the extra polystyrene strips that we used to build the armor back in the first part of the video, and just spread the white glue around just a little bit. With the glue spread out, I'm just going to apply a little bit of flocking to each area. This is just some old Woodland Scenics flocking. It's got maybe 2 or 3 colors mixed in. I'm going to do, before I finish the other side, I'm going to dump off that side like that. Or the reason why I'm clearing off the extra flocking in 2 steps is so that way, for example, I apply flocking here and then clean off this way, all the flocking is going to go over in the middle where there's still some wash that hasn't been dried. This way I'm going to be able to flock this side of the base and then clean it off by tapping this side. And then there we go, we got a little bit of grass along the base. Just gonna take my finger here and clear it off from the side so we still have some nice flat black sides. And with that, I'm gonna call painting Dogmeat done. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me actually hold a miniature in place. I'll probably just put a better, well-lit picture over this anyway. So once again, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. Thank you guys all for watching, and have a great week.